Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us here today. It is my pleasure, as usual, to have the presentation from Kevin McNeil, CEO of EQ Resources, who will be supported by the Chief Technical Geological Guru, Tony Bainbridge, as well. We're going to run through today the recent announcement regarding the BFS update, which has brought some tremendous uplift to the numbers that EQ is working for on the Mount Carbine tungsten mine. I'll hand it over to you, Kevin, now to talk through, and we will address some questions at the end of this presentation.
Yeah, thanks, everybody. I'm not going to bore you too much with the history. A lot of you have been through it, but I did include some slides in the webinar today just to for the benefit of some of the new shareholders that are coming on board as of late. Just a quick share cap where we're sitting at 1.45 billion shares at a 66.8 million market cap. The board hasn't changed and it's not anticipated to change anytime in the near future. So we've had some good stability along the way. So just quickly for the benefit, EQR in current production, long-term offtake, we're de-risked, we have economic resource and growing, which we'll get into a little bit later. Quite positive market conditions for tungsten. Genuine ESG, and there'll be some news coming out on that in the near future as well. We've got some exciting stuff coming. I like to think that we are experienced, given my age, cannot be experienced in some way, shape, or form. So anyway, and beneficial reuse to the second stream for the aggregates. I will let people go through this in a leisure. It's just some information that on the operation, on what we are currently doing there. We'll get to the good stuff. Yeah, I just want to spend a little bit of time. I think you can see on this, both the sorter and the concentrate production, Peter, that it's increasing quarter on quarter. As we go, we got the second sorter in, obviously, and that helped us jump up our production. It's continuing. The new plant is up and running very smoothly. And again, I think a couple of the things that add to it is certainly having our workforce is starting to settle down, I guess you could say, and getting stabilized a little better than it had been. As you get a new operation going, there always tends to be a lot of turnover, but we've been able to retain most of the key personnel over the last year or so. So it's that part of it is stabilizing nicely. I guess getting into the bankable feasibility study, and I just wanted to express that the uplift came from three areas. A upgrade in the 29% in the reserves already. Secondly, that was within a smaller pit shell and with a less dilution from the waste to ore strip ratio. It came down from 11 to 3 to 1, and that's mostly because of the low-grade halo around the king veins. On the original BFS, we focused more on the higher grade sections of the pit, but with the new sorting technology that we're seeing, we're able to reduce the cutoff grade and to be able to treat that lower grade material effectively. So that's been a big change, Pete.
Kevin, can I just jump in there? That strip ratio reduction, that is a very significant reduction in strip ratio, or improvement in strip ratio. Economically, that must add a hell of a lot to the bottom line.
Yeah, that was really a big change in the economics, being able to take a lot of that internal waste on the pit floor as you go down as ore now. So stuff that was 0.15 is now getting added with stuff that was 0.7, 0.8, and making a 0.33 out of it, and then taking it to the entire plant. So instead of wasting the 0.15, which we're currently mining, just to remind everybody, we're currently mining 0.075 out of the low-grade stockpile. So having this stuff that you would have had to drill and blast and move anyway, it doesn't make much sense why you would mine the low-grade stockpile and displace 0.15 ore. So we've included that now that we are confident in the being reserves, because we're able to treat it economically.
And would that be a reflection also of the fact that for the last 2-3 years you've been actually producing from site and building up the skills and tweaking the equipment that you have? So now all of that knowledge and experience and technology you've got allows you to see the benefits by reducing that strip ratio and treating lower grade ore.
Yeah, exactly, 100%, Peter. And having that operating experience has been invaluable, doing it at a smaller scale to start with and working our way up. So we know this particular pump didn't work, so we've tried this pump, and guess what? This one works like a bomb, right? It's great. And look, we need a rubber line everything, and we need this, and we know our ore now. Like, so we've been through all that hardship over the last couple of years in the learning curve. So I'm just going to jump down to the next slide. So just on the BFS economics, I guess the biggest question I get is sort of around the IRR, right? How can you have such a high IRR? That's crazy. Well, I guess having spent some money, having some sunk capital already on the project, and then secondly, having the government funding of $6 million as a grant reduce that CapEx that was on the project, really gave us a very, very quick payback on any existing capital that remained. So it was able to drop that, and having a low strip ratio, and especially now in year one, we went from, Tony will correct me probably afterwards, but it was something like 200,000 or 300,000 tons of ore on the pit floor up to 600,000-700,000 tons of ore coming off the pit floor in year one. So it made that big difference on the IRR.
Yeah, it's an extraordinary IRR, Kevin. There are hundreds of companies. In fact, some companies I would advise not to put out their scoping study or feasibility numbers, but that number is something you shareholders must be really happy with when faced with the prospect of moving into your scaled up production.
Yeah, it's just a low risk, quick capital payback project is what it is. Just the nature of it. So yeah, that's where it's at. And I think the other thing is on our capital costs, Pete, a couple of things that what we found is that, like in the original feasibility study, we really weren't locked down with the offtake like that we are now. So we're shipping material consistently, basically through CRONIMET to the same group as offtaker, and they're very, very happy with it. So originally, we have a touch of arsenic in our ore, so we had put in an arsenic removal. They don't care; they do it on their side. It's just a waste of money. They said they don't care. They're happy with it, so we can take it. And the second one is that we're already operating at our projected recoveries of 79.5%. So we're already at about 80% recovery. So we did have some scavenging circuits put in as well that we were able to take the time to test, and we're not going to rush into putting in like scavenging on it, because already we're getting very, very low grades coming off the plant and tail grade. So we're pretty happy with that.
And Kevin, you just touched on CRONIMET, the value of that offtake contract with CRONIMET, $400 million. That gives you a lot of comfort.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, the other thing, I guess, before we get into the geology, is just on the financings and the royalty. Having worked since last year with originally with Grisham, that has now been changed to Regal, having a great partner like Regal behind the project, and you know that 10 million in royalty, that's 3% of what you have to make in order for them just to get the return back. So it's a very significant amount of money that a company that's done their external technical due diligence on the project, and we're happy to think that this junior will pull this project off and make this kind of money. It's a real vote of confidence, I guess, Pete, is what I'm saying.
Absolutely, and CRONIMET are there for you with the over the long journey too, which is to have a partner or an offtake partner like that who's interested and keen to take your product over the life of mine is an extraordinary huge benefit.
Yeah, absolutely. So Pete, I think what I'm going to do is sort of turn this over to Tony now. I guess he can take us through the geology. Tony, would you like to start here, or?
I think it's worth pointing that out. So, right now we're in this getting prepared for this stage 2 of the company. Stage 1 was getting those low-grade stockpiles going, and as Kev's pointed out, we've had fabulous success with those ore sorters. They're the core of our whole system. We're getting very high recoveries there and reducing our ore to a tenth of its size. So the plant size being small, we've been able to utilise all that plant. So that's all smoothed out, and we've got the crushing as we got it now. We're actually already reached the tonnes a day through the plant that we're going to do from the pit. The grade changes dramatically, but the tonnes that get processed are the same that we're doing now. So that's an important point for us. So we've reached that capacity. So we're in stage 2. Stage 2, we've had just recently an updated BFS that you're hearing from Kev, and it's added a lot more value, particularly in the first year. As Kev said, and he got it right, the strip ratio in that first year is quite low. It's actually 0.7. So we take out 740,000 tonne of ore that first year, next year, and there's only 500,000 tonne of waste to come out. So that keeps our costs low, and we get into that positive cash flow quite quickly. My job as chief geologist is always to try to think ahead. So we've got a number of programs happening, of which one is that we're going to start drilling next week. The rig's confirmed to be here next week, and we start another phase of drilling. And maybe we go the next slide, Kev. I think Kev's probably proudest of that slide because it all shows we're on schedule. And as he's pointed out, we're actually reducing the capital we've had to find through grants and things. Our drilling program, that, as I said, starting next week, 3,000 metres of drilling, and it's particularly targeted to this western area. We were hoping some of that would have come into even this first stage pit, but when we did the pit design and the ramps, we found that it moved a little further north, which is in an area that we hadn't drilled. So we're planning to do stage 1 of the drilling is to increase our indicated and going through to indicated resources, which we will believe will be reserves with it once we look at the economics of it. But that's in that western area. You'll see we've got a mock stage 3 pit, we call it, set up there. And the thing to point out on this is that all the dark blue is undrilled and unknown resources. We've drilled a little bit of it very deep, but below the pit, so we know the veins continue through that area. But at this point, we hadn't drilled it. So basically, half the pit expansion we're looking at now is in undrilled territory, and that'll add new resources to us. It's being highlighted there, and you see the big red blob on the north side of the pit there. That the green is the BFS pit that Kevin's just given you the economics of. But that area there is what we call this Iron Duke. We've had some fabulous grades, all of them quite deep though. If we go to the next slide, we'll show you what the other part of our drilling program is, the second part. It's targeting some interesting soil anomalies that we've started to see. You see the red area, and you can see that in this case it's purple, those ore bodies to the north of the pit. But we found there's a lot of soils there, and we also found there's a thing called the crown zone. We have 2 holes in that, but they're down at 300 metres level. But we're very pleased when the soils led us out to do some work there, and we found some very high-grade veins, again running on our grid east-west. So we want to start to link those into the system as well. as well as so that's the crown vein we're going to have a look at. That's drilling high-grade surface outcrops. The ruby zone we're particularly like as well, because it's one of the veins that does have high grade right through to the surface. You'll see quite a bit of lower soils there, and that's principally along to the left of the ruby. That's principally because we're at a very high RL, and the tungsten's not reaching up to that RL. So if we drill down where we've got these great outcrops just on the side of the hill, we're seeing that the high grade's coming through to surface. I'll ask you to go once more slide, and we'll show you what we've also got a hole planned for in this exploration phase. So crown vein, iron, which is part of Iron Duke, the ruby part of Iron Duke, but we're also going to have a look at this target 3, which is called an extension hole, and that's to target what we believe is a plunging high grade zone. That when we drilled in March this year, the last section we drilled had some very high grade on it, and we believe we know which direction that high grade's now going in a plunge along the system. So we're going to start investigating that with some drill holes as well. So this is the 3D summary, if you like, of where we're going drilling. Target 1 is about putting more resources into the thing, so we expand the pit even again and increase the economics. If we're successful there, again, our MPVs will go up, and as will our 4.5 year current pit life.
So Tony, it's extremely tantalising when you see the red blobs representing that what is the high-grade nature of this Mount Carbine mine. And given the BFS so far is really only based around 18% of your current mineral resource. So the 14-year mine life.
Yes,
so this is a multi-generational, multi-decade mine that we are about to commence work on.
Yeah. Currently, we've got 14.5 years of mine life, but when we finish this drilling, which will end in February, we hope that we can almost double the size of that pit again. So it is exciting. Pete, we've had great success in the drilling, and each time we go and drill, we find more high grade. So big blanks. There is also a few holes even still in the BFS pit that shows there's still about 2 million tonne that's marked as waste that is undrilled. So, and that's principally because of the difficulty to drill it. So we expect a little bit more resource again in the BFS pit. So we're excited about, we're starting to drill again for the next 3 months, and we hope to bring you some good news.
Thanks, Tony. Kevin, it's a wonderful looking ore body. The pit is already there. You've done all the preliminary work. We're funded. We're about to start really scaling up the operation to become perhaps one of the preeminent tungsten mines in the world.
Absolutely. It's Mount Carbine is one of these projects that's going to be just keep adding resources, in my opinion. Like I said, 18%, and we're certainly still working on the underground. We haven't lost sight of that. It's we're just like as part of this drill program to the west kind of tells us, and even this deep hole where the number 3 is, that's quite an exciting extension that could help Tony identify a little bit more where this high grade resource is going for the underground in particular. So yeah, Mount Carbine will be producing tungsten. We're a low cost producer. We get into the open pit. It's great. It's a really, really nice project. We're looking, Tony's team have been out looking regionally around the area. We're looking at other ore bodies, other companies' ore bodies currently. And so, yeah, I think there's a lot of growth to come in this particular area.
It's a lovely, as you said, it's a great project. It's close to surface. We're not going 2 miles down under the ground. We're in a good area. You've got staff, you've got infrastructure, you're close to port with Townsville just down the road. We've got government support. There's interest from government. I understand that there's regular visitors from both sides of Parliament coming up to the mine site, Kevin.
Yeah, correct. With the Minister of Mines, and then we had the Shadow Minister of Mines also on site. So no, I'd say I was actually with the Minister of Mines in Townsville for AMEC conference yesterday, and he said, it's certainly high on his radar, Mount Carbine. He really enjoyed his site visit, and he understands what we're trying to do here. So we get a lot of good support from the government.
I've got just a few questions coming through. The one we often get is around the tungsten price, the environment for tungsten pricing globally, and the impact of a rising price on the economics.
Yeah, it's certainly all gravy. There's no question. The rising prices and the low Aussie dollar is certainly in our wheelhouse. Hopefully, it works that way. But yeah, like as the new economy minerals are kicking in more and more, there seems to be more and more demand coming out of tungsten. CRONIMET attended the recent conference on tungsten. I think you can probably see that it's going to stabilize here for the next few months, and then they're anticipating another growth spurt in tungsten is what's come out of the conference. So yeah, we're quite excited about that, Pete. I'm happy if the price stays above 300 here, but we're certainly happy with this where this area is currently, and hopefully it'll climb like we anticipate it will.
Kevin, some companies are being hit with supply chain issues. I know that much of your equipment can actually be manufactured and maintained locally in Cairns and the district. Do you see any impact on supply chain issues?
It's certainly since the COVID it sort of got ended and everybody got back to work. That's slowed down a lot. Certainly our staff and staff numbers and stuff, like we're able to maintain that. But no, supply chain, Pete, we're okay so far on that. We pretty much have our standard suppliers now that we figured out on where to buy everything and where to get what's the delivery times and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, as part of an operation. Yeah.
And the weather down in the south of Australia is pretty awful. I think you're heading into the wet season. Do you see much impact from that?
Yeah, we generally tend to do. We see, so we've tried to set up with the wet screen this year. It's still difficult, like especially the low grade stockpile. It has a lot of clays in it from the stripping in the past and the history. We have targeted a wet system. We think that we'll be a lot better shape this year than we were last year, but certainly when we get into the hard rock mine, then it's really quite easy. So we do have a few tricks up our sleeve in areas that we found this year that are much more rocky in the low grade stockpile. Instead of trying to go for the high clay areas, that we're certainly going to be focusing more on the rocky areas and leaning on our sorters a little bit more in throughput there.
And good versatility. A geological question for Tony. The ore itself, where the tungsten sits and the makeup of that, how does it compare with other tungsten ore or mineralization around the world? Is it better? Are we seeing a richer grade? How do you see that, Tony?
Yeah, good question. We're what they call a vein system that you see, as you see in the picture here. They're vertical. They're close enough together that they coalesce into an ore body. That's responds to about 40% of the world's tungsten mines are in vein systems similar. The other type of systems are skarn systems. They're a lot more complex. There's some other people coming online and they tend to have a lot more complex metallurgy. So we're lucky that we have simple, clean metallurgy that we just use water and gravity to separate our tungsten. In terms of these vein systems are very laterally extensive. So they tend to go a long way and strike, and we're seeing that. We're exploring along the main fault. We still see there's kilometres to look at there, and the depth extent also. We haven't even got close to seeing the limits in that direction. I think the important thing though with the vein systems is that we have multiple grade early resource. And that means if tungsten prices do change, we can readjust our cut-offs. At the moment, it's good to have a lower cut-off, as Kevin said, with the sorters. We can run a little tighter. You know, we've got grades right up to 1% zones, so we're going to be able to weather those storms, hopefully. So that works in our favour, and you know, with the simple metallurgy, we're pleased with the deposit we have.
We might summarise here, Kevin, for shareholders and new investors tuning in today, a bit of perhaps just where we are in terms of your schedule, what you're looking forward to over the coming quarter, and what shareholders can look forward to hearing from the company.
Yeah, I think certainly we wanted to get in and get this next round of drilling done sooner than later. We raised additional funds for it to do this kind of work as opposed to the capital project. And so I think come February, we should be seeing some nice results coming out. Even prior to that, there'll probably be a couple of releases, I suspect. I don't know, Tony kind of likes to keep them hid from me until the time is right. But so yeah, we'll be seeing that. I think certainly, Pete, from operational point of view, we're continued to construct. We're continuing to improve the operation. The environmental permitting has been taking a little longer than we had thought as far as putting the document in, but it is a very extensive document. This is for the amendment for the positioning of the low-grade stock, or from the waste dumps from the open pit and a few other things around the open pit. And so we are putting that in. We expect that to be back in 3 months. So you'll see the schedule is shifted out a little bit. So we are engaged with Goldings. Had a meeting with them, in fact, this morning here in Townsville, and we're fully on track to get them mobilized into the new year. And yeah, looking forward to getting stuck in.
All right. Well, thanks, gents. Thanks. Congratulations on some wonderful economic numbers in the BFS. The project looking set up and ready to roll now. It's a great project. Thanks for your summary here today and your presentation. If there are any other questions from anybody, please send them through to peter@nwrcommunications.com.au, and I'll have Kevin or Tony answer them as soon as possible. Thanks for joining us this morning, gents.
Okay, guys, thanks.
Thank you.